Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So that's it. Did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes that Debbie sent out?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
No second?
I'll second that.
No comment? No, everybody's good? Bob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
And I was not there, I don't think, so I'm
Nope.
abstaining. I think that's what I missed. All right. We're gonna move one thing out of order. We're gonna move new business up for a minute. We have an administrative thing we need to deal with. Will? Oh, or I guess I should say that I think all of you know we received unfortunately, we received a resignation notice from a board member, and we have to address that here. I mean, I'm very sad that Faith is not going to be able to do this, but.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to regretfully accept Faith's resignation. And I'll end up talking about the next steps after that.
Okay,
Second.
second. Okay, any other comments?
On the comments, we really need to end up, I don't know if it doesn't look like she copied the,
I've done that.
oh, you already
I
taken
have
it
done
and sent
that,
it to
yep.
the town clerk
I have indeed.
and the moderator.
I will send it to the moderator.
I mean,
Yeah, I
just
will.
trying to take and follow
Yep,
the steps that
yep,
we've done.
absolutely.
Is let him, because
okay.
he should be the first, yes, I know we can end up doing under the
Yep.
bylaw, appointing somebody, but we should be just asking him first.
Sure, absolutely.
And it might be advisable to end up, when you sent it to them, is the carbon copy, the selectman's office.
I did
For the
that.
reason,
I
oh,
did that.
you have already taken that care of?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Then you've taken care of everything per that, Mr. Chairman, very good.
I try hard.
And just under a matter of discussion, I just wanted to reiterate what has been said, that Faith will be missed, but it's an understandable reason why she needs to do what she needs to do, and I hope the circumstances change.
Yeah.
She did say that, just as a bookkeeping matter, that if we found somebody in a short term that, or either way, but she's willing to give up her book so that we don't have to create another one if needed. So,
I mean, and as chairman, I'd like to publicly thank Faith for her service. I know she's really had to balance some things in her life, and she was a big addition to the board, and I with Will, regretfully, wish she wasn't leaving, but understand and thank her publicly for her service.
I considered her comments, especially around the school and talking about regionalization versus municipal, very pointed and very worth and timed very well. And I think that we're gonna miss her on that particular aspect. It's a shame but we understand that. I understand that.
Totally agree.
Move the question.
So, with no other comments on the motion to accept Faith's resignation, Bob,
yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and yes for me. All right, do we have any other new business? We can go back to it.
We can go back to that.
So the budget versus actuals, so I sent, and Jeff, since you're here from the Board of Selectmen, I don't know if you guys addressed it at your last meeting. The Board of Selectmen was presented a letter from this committee about the, let's say, untimeliness of the budget versus actuals. Mr. May has kind of set a timeline of each month, and we're supposed to get it around the 10th of every month, and it's the 10th, it's the 17th, it's the 24th. There seems to be no consistency. And what we're concerned about is, it shouldn't be just one person in that office that can produce that document. So in the case of if someone happens to be out on a medical leave or whatever the case may be, that document needs to be produced. And if you could mention that to Mr. Curry, that we would like that addressed as a committee.
It's not necessarily a requirement for Mr. May. That was agreed upon some time back about the.
No, not a requirement from, I'm just saying that Bob had sent out a list of about the past 6 or 8 months of the dates that
Since
that
August,
document came to us, and it was very, there was no consistency
No.
to whatsoever, and
Because I thought that was one of the ideas about making the former part-time a full-time, so when one was out, there was always somebody in the office to do all this work.
that was our impression also, and so that, to us, that questions whether, another thing, or whether that Hubbardston IMA is a
Less than
detriment to the
legit.
town. Mr. May?
I just threw out that the excuse was obviously less than, has proven to be real. I didn't wanna say what I was gonna say, so.
One step.
Sorry.
I'll
Just that's a better decorum in this forum.
That's,
I'll
well,
say
yeah.
one thing, one step further. I'm concerned about the financial team, that the fact that we see that we now are advertising for an assistant accountant.
Agreed.
We're talking about an assistant to the treasurer collector. We're talking about some additional assistants that are missing. And I look back and I'm concerned that over the last, 3 or 4 years, we've had a large amount of people that one way or the other have left town government, and that concerns me, because you can't get consistency that you're talking about getting stuff done.
That concur
If
with that.
if you have a constant turnover of people, no matter what office it is. I mean, I could go through the list of positions that have gone, and there's something wrong.
Tony, if I might.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanna say, you said some very good things, and the one thing that hit me was inconsistency. And I don't know if any of you have followed up on what Will was just saying with the 4 ads that we have for the assistants right now, and just how, let's say, inconsistent they are. On one ad, the assistant treasurer collector they're looking for 19 plus or minus hours. In other ads, they're looking for 17 plus or minus hours. On the MMA site, every position is potentially full-time, right down to the 8-hour position. On the other ads, they're not. On JobQuest, they're different. So JobQuest and the towns are close, but MMA is out the window. So I would say that's one of the reasons why we have a problem getting help. Because if I looked at those, I wouldn't come here.
And keeping help too, because, I mean, there's a couple of positions that the turnover in one particular position and on the financial team has had, and this is a clerk's position, has turned over a couple of times.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and because of, I think the laws, we're not really allowed to know why people leave. It could be their own personal without knowing the reason why people leave, usually it's for more money. Most times it's for more money, which I understand, but it's kind of hard to speculate on why there's been so much turnover. Want to be careful we don't get down a slippery slope with that.
Well, financially, if that's the case financially, then some of when we get into the budget, I'll be talking about that, is to prioritizing monies from some accounts to where it really needs to be. And I don't see that happening per se. I think that's financially, this whole thing is causing us problems still today.
And I think of what should really be of concern is the fact that these positions are coming up at such a crucial time for the financial, for the budget cycle, that where they're really needed, so.
Are they vacancies right now, or are they anticipated vacancies?
They're,
I'm not,
They're
I think
vacancies
they're
right now.
Vacancies right now.
Unfortunately. I mean, we talked about the IMA, and all of a sudden we have vacancies that we're looking for an assistant for full-time here.
well, that's one of the things that concerns me about that, Will, is because now, we just brought a person who was part-time making $17.50 an hour, up to full-time making $25 an hour, and they left within, months
Right.
of that happening. So, I know it's a one-off, but that says to me it's not about money.
No, this,
Right.
right. I didn't wanna go
So
down there, but-
I think there's another problem, and I mean, this is budget versus actual, not exactly the time to be talking about this. But, I think we have other issues with employment and getting employment in here that has very little to do with money. Just my own personal thoughts.
Well, just losing that person, even with the increase, it clearly showed the fact that we got this thing so late. I mean, and I think we've been on top of it, asking for this on a regular basis.
It should automatically go out.
Yep.
We shouldn't even have to
I mean,
ask
this,
for it.
when you talk to some people that are aware of VEDAR, once the reports are made up, it's only about 5 or 6 steps that they can end up creating it. I mean,
Any other comments on the BVA?
yeah, I have some concerns about looking at the BVA here. And some of the and I say unspent money is when we have, something that was in 2018, 17,500, and it still hasn't been spent, and, the AC has not been put into this building. That's 2 years. I mean, that's just one of the items, and I think, there was another item about the handicap access door in the back that
I know we've talked about that for a
has
while.
not been addressed, per se.
It's
It wasn't,
$9,500, I think is.
and I can't, I found nowhere where it's listed per se, Mr. Bennett.
I have it shown from a while back, but recently, no, I can't find it either. But I know it was set aside, $9,500.
Because I look back on, basically what you have said, and I tried to follow up on that and looked at some BVA's past years, and at least the annual town meeting, and I didn't see that reference, but I do recall that there was something about a handicap door being put in that they can address the issue. I mean, I got an elderly person that has bonked on me a number of times about that and said, hey, I don't want to go there because of, it's not handicap accessible.
In the budget, if I may, Mr. Chair, in the budget book, I don't know if it's 20 or 19, maybe 18. If you look, I think it's back near in the capital stuff, there's a spec sheet about the doors and
Talked
putting a
about that last
ballard
year.
with like when you come up to the sidewalk, on the side of the sidewalk, not on the building,
Yeah.
putting a ballard, which is basically a pole, post in
Yeah,
the
right.
ground with a button to hit.
Yep.
I've also made a reference that I think it's about an 8-inch drop, there should be a rail there. But it was listed on,
It was last year that we, because I remember discussing that.
so,
So do we know the status of that?
and the money is there,
Maybe that's a question we need to ask.
the door is there, but that's on one of my, to bring up things.
If,
Well, we can help support that, I think, by
Because
asking the
well,
question.
It's not only about the money, that's an important, that's leaving you wide open to get sued.
That's my concern, especially with this individual saying about the handicap access, and it,
I mean,
they
never
base,
mind-
he,
Never mind the front door, I mean, but that one.
yeah. And the front door should also be a handicap,
It should be, but, I mean,
Yep. Because when this building was, we were looking at this building, there was looking at handicap access front and back, because there was potentially a proposed access off of that going west and coming around the building so that they would have access, or this way here for the parking lot. There
Oh,
was
right.
a number of
For
discussions.
emergency egress.
Right.
But yeah, I know the money is, it was there and there's paperwork about it.
Yep.
Mr. May?
I was just gonna say that I remember that from, when Alan was here. He was researching parts of that door and that project, way back then. It was on the capital planning, agenda. And, the same thing with that air conditioner, the mini split, for the building. I believe, I won't swear to it, but I believe that the reasoning behind that is when they actually went to purchase it, or went to go do it, that wasn't enough money for, the actual mini split system for this area.
Well, if that's the case, then in the BVA, they should have a note section that says, this is not expended because of this. You know, that it's been reassessed and the mini splits are now gonna cost 28,000 or whatever.
Well, a mini split could be still installed here. You can, because
I'm just-
the size, no, I'm
No,
just
no.
saying the size of this building, okay? Because I have a mini split.
Yeah.
And I have it on one end of my house, and because it's on one side, it only covers one half of the house. The larger portion of my house, I've been thinking about putting it on that side, also to take it, end up making sure the full house. So, I mean, it's possible to do that, especially for some of the offices. I would think that the mini split could be done on some of the offices that people attend to. I mean, yes, we got a window in here.
The idea of the mini split working was never the issue. The idea was, I believe, for the area of coverage, the mini split that they had priced, or the system that they had priced,
Yeah.
would not do the area.
Yeah.
So it was like, they're not gonna, I guess, do something that just covers, 50% of what they proposed, because
Okay.
that would
I-
also
I'll
not
take a
go over
note.
big.
I'll send Adam. an
You know what I
email.
mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, because I had that
Basically
same
where I'm
issue.
at with it.
I had to break my, at the three heads.
oh, yeah.
because-
Yeah,
because
I
of
know
the-
how they work well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I only brought that one up because there's also other ones
There's others.
that have not,
There's a lot of.
I mean, that have not taken place, like the AC in the fire station. I mean, it's over a year. Maybe they should have put the mini split over there.
Yeah.
Well, they can't move the funds.
Mm.
Okay. And to
But,
me,
Yeah.
again, I'll just get on my soapbox, this is why you need a spend plan.
And these things, and I know Mr. Bennett has said it, and I know, Will has said it, and I know I have said it. We've all hounded on the fact that under the special articles, there's just things that sit there dormant. That's a lot of money. We appropriated it, we voted on it, we went through the process, let's use it.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the things that, has worked really well, I believe, with like the DPW. Because when you buy something on the DPW and it goes driving around town, people see where their money went. But, you hear all this stuff, we're buying all this stuff, and then they come around, nothing's changed.
So I noticed the voting machines
Yep.
hasn't been expended. Now, I actually did ask somebody when I went and voted the other night if those were the new machines, and they said yes, but maybe, I don't know, they all look the same to me, maybe they're not.
Well,
So,
if they said yes, why would they be
That's-
untruthful about it?
well, huh?
Why would they not tell the truth?
Well, they may just not have known, is what
Oh,
I'm thinking.
okay.
Because it doesn't show any money expended.
Right, I mean,
Got it.
That's why I say.
there's a number of them, and I agree, Mr. Chairman. There's a number of even things that were shown out, even this last year, that should have been expended because of the need.
Well, I
mean,
think that you're in the 9th month of the fiscal year. that type of stuff, there should be a narrative that goes with this to say why. Now, I don't really expect the town accountant to come up with that narrative, but whoever's department or whoever's doing that, I would expect, maybe
Procurement?
it starts with the PA's office to say, okay, we haven't bought or the voting machines are on order, we haven't got them, they're, pay them, their FOB, so whatever the case may be, but at this point, there should be a narrative when you have some pretty large money hanging out there, that's not expended.
You know,
I can tell you, the reason, sorry, Will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can tell you that this has been such a issue for, a period of time here, that the capital planning plans for it. Because we don't go 10,000 in 5 years, we go 5,000 in 5 years, because things sit on the list so long, they go from 5,000 to $10,000, so they have to come before capital.
Yep.
And we just kind of eliminate the double bump, coming twice, or come in an emergency situation, so we just ask them for 5.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
only-
that's
the
how
only-
long this problem has been going on.
The only two things I understand that could be ongoing per se, and not spent on a regular basis is for the evaluation, the tri-valuations and the scholarships. I understand that's.
Yeah.
That's a bill.
Those two there would be ongoing. The rest of the stuff should be on a timely basis.
You think they'd have, and I mean, I've looked before and I didn't find it, and I don't know if anybody else knows, but I don't see any end date to any of that stuff. I haven't found anything that says, like, literally, if it's on there and we want it still, that it can just live on there.
It can live on there, and as long as it's expended at the end of by the end of the fiscal year, it's there.
Because the special articles just keep going.
Special
They don't
articles.
go to free cash or anything. They just
Right,
stay
it'll
there
just
next
stay.
year
It
Oh,
doesn't
too.
I
see
thought
there.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize you were still on special articles,
Yeah.
I apologize.
Sorry. Yeah, that's my sticking point.
Mr. Chair, it's probably on the website, but I just looked through the agenda for next Wednesday's selectmen. There's, town clerk is coming to ask the selectmen per mass law to vote to discontinue the scan voting machines and to use the new image ones in the state primary. So once we vote
No, we just
that, I
had the
think
state-
they can then
You just had the
purchase-
state primary. That was Tuesday.
Well,
The next
elections,
election.
whatever.
Okay.
That's the wording for the interstate fall election.
Well, this was basically national primaries. I think there's a state one also for different offices for the state, I believe. Isn't it? I think so. I think Mr. Bennett was
Anyway,
correct.
that's an item, and
It's
that's probably when that money,
5E.
once the selectmen or city council vote to switch, then
Yep.
you can buy the machines and then, but you can't buy them until you vote to switch to it's government stuff. But anyway, that should take care of that money.
Cool.
Well, that's one.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
The only
Like I
other
said,
thing,
it's- if you look up the selectmen's meeting, it's probably listed in the documents.
5E.
the only other thing is there's accounts under some of the different departments that are grossly underspent, even at this time of the year.
Well, I'm you know how I feel about that.
I know where you're gonna go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
Probably would help if we saw a spend plan, huh,
But
Mr.
the-
Chairman?
it absolutely would.
Mm.
Tony wants a schedule, like when they're gonna pay health insurance, gonna pay this, gonna pay that.
That's
If
exactly
there's
what
a
I
state-
want.
Well,
So you can tell,
So then when you look at the budget versus actual and you see, okay, last month, they were only at 27% expenditures, and then this month, all of a sudden, they jumped up to 65. Why? Well, because they had a big payment for insurance or something. And I don't mean, you don't want it down to the nickel, but you want it for those big hitting items that are gonna really move
Right,
that
like when you have to pay
percentage
all your
month to
insurance
month.
in
Yeah.
March or whatever, yeah.
sort of like in the regional school agreement, it lists the months that they're supposed to make a payment. So that's kind of like a schedule, you can look at our school assessment.
Really wouldn't be hard to do.
Just-
some
And in
expense,
charge of that, so you know.
Like, for example, you don't need it in personnel expenses or, for salary, because
Right, that's
you
what
have
I'm
about
saying.
the same month to month. But there's a few departments, like, let's say highway, if all of a sudden, because it's best to buy sand in June, or I guess salt in this case now, that he doesn't have that expenditure, and all of a sudden, the end of June, that expenditure spikes because, you know what, that's the best time to buy it, so that's when he got it.
I got one question further down is, and again, for the seniors, under personnel. Do we have a director or not for senior center?
I know who's over there. Isn't it a part-time employee?
I think she's full-time now.
Jackie Prime pretty much oversees.
Well, she's community services,
No.
but I'm talking about the actual
There's,
director.
I think there's
Someone else
someone
on
there.
site.
There is someone that, yes, there is.
I know, because I saw her. My daughter did community service over there.
Yeah, there is someone, and I believe she's been moved to full-time.
Okay.
I was
We
gonna
had-
say, it
we
is
had
in the
a
budget.
resignation.
Not, it doesn't show that in the budget, that's why I'm asking it, because it's here, and in the new budget, it says a COA director, and it's only for like about 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that there was 2 people over there, there's now 1 person.
well, there's, right, but those are administrative people, they're not necessarily directors. There's, she used to work in the selectman's office, I can't, Alicia, or something like that?
Alicia O'Malley.
O'Malley, yes, and she's over there, she's like coordinating some of the events over there, and there's somebody else, the shine
Yeah.
person. I mean, there's a number of 2 or 3 people over there that I'm aware of that are there on a regular basis, per se, because they've got functions, other than the director.
Right.
Just a passing thought, I mean, I look at this and I see them only at 40%, and I would think that we would be much higher based upon that, especially the fact that it shows the director on the next budget. I mean, that's, people have asked me. Cause we had a resignation for that position, and I haven't seen anything.
So I believe to bridge that gap we had with the school, where the town still had to come up with 130,000, I believe that was it from there.
And they pulled it from there,
Yeah,
but then there's still.
part of it, not all of it.
Right, but there's still money listed under that also.
Yeah.
Even if they took some money out of there, it's, okay. You're right, they may have taken some money out of there.
I believe they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But I don't recall how much it was. Anything more on the budget versus actuals? All right, good conversations.
Are we gonna ask those questions?
I have about the mini split, the
Yeah.
handicap door.
Yes.
I also had a question, cause I saw one on the infield groomer that, if you're buying one infield groomer, how do you and you have $4,000, or whatever the number was, I don't remember, I just closed it, and you've only spent 900, I don't get that, is that, maybe it's just a down payment?
It was, okay.
No.
Okay. I can get you through this, right?
Go ahead, Bob.
All right. It came to capital as a $22,000 item. We knocked it down, talked back and forth, got it to 15. It was an actual infield groomer, singles piece,
Mm-hmm.
not a pull behind from a tractor, which is what they bought, for about $3,900, I believe, is what they bought, and that's why you have the 900 being spent again in the 4,000 remaining, because the other 4,000 was already removed. And these are remainders and leftovers and deletions, and yeah, try following that and you're with me.
Well, but I'm happy, no offense, but I'm happy that they didn't spend $22,000 or even $15,000 on an infield groomer.
Not me.
But they did, you wanted to spend that?
Totally ticked off.
Really?
Yep,
You're not glad that they saved money?
they didn't.
No. It's not as effective as what they were asking for.
It's It's not as effective, it's not as time-saving, it
Okay.
requires multiple vehicles to operate,
It's not what they
it won't
present
last
at
as
town
long.
meeting.
Huh?
It's not what they presented to town meeting.
Well,
Right.
and that's a bigger issue there.
And it's not what we approved, that's the
Right.
thing I
Yeah,
hate.
I agree, that I agree with.
It's more labor intense to use what they bought versus what they had proposed.
Big time.
Yes.
My guess is somebody was trying to do a favor and save money, and said, oh, we could do it with this, and maybe found out after the fact.
Well, we know where that decision's made. I remember the person that made it.
That was before me, so.
It
all right.
was.
All right, so, next is FY '21 budget review. I know Will, I don't know if you looked at it online, but Will and Debbie, just got your books. Everybody else has their books.
Oh, yes.
And the meeting is on, I'm still going through it. Obviously, there's a lot of information. The meeting's on the 14th it's in there. I think we start at 8:30. We did get an email today. They found an error to the tune of 72,000. Yeah, if you wanna know-
$678.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But fortunately, part of the mitigation to that is going to be the fact that Monty Tech approved their budget last night, I believe, and I'm just talking round numbers here. Our contribution to Monty Tech is going down by about $29,000 this year. I don't know why, so when they come in on the 22nd, maybe? I think it's 22nd that the schools come in, that we'll have another joint meeting like we did last year on the 22nd, also just for evening for the schools. Maybe we'll get an explanation, but obviously can't complain when they're asking for less money. I attempted to go to the school committee meeting Tuesday night. I read their meeting notice said the Kiva at 6 PM. I went to the Kiva at 6 PM, there was nobody there. I went home and looked at the meeting notice, it said Kiva/Phillipston. So I believe the meeting was in Phillipston. So I would respectfully ask the school committee that they make sure on their website that the location of the meeting is either the Kiva, the library, or Phillipston, and you can't have multiple locations up there because it's confusing, and I don't wanna see them get an open meeting violation.
I'm not sure.
directing-
I'm not sure how accurate it is, but looking at social media, they said that there was a school committee meeting that was canceled and scheduled for last night. I have no
I was
idea.
gonna
'cause
say, I'm looking right here on their agenda, and it shows school committee budget hearing and meeting Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, Kiva, 464 Baldwinsville
Yeah.
Road, Baldwinsville, Mass. Says nothing about anywhere else.
Well, there's no Wednesday, March 4th.
Yeah,
I'm just,
Yeah.
right.
just saying.
Oh, wait, yeah,
Yes,
yesterday
it
was
is.
the 4th.
That's
Okay,
yesterday.
sorry. I thought the meeting
Wait a minute.
was,
That was yesterday.
I was gonna say, unless I was dreaming,
Oh, so you tried to
I
go
went there
Tuesday.
last night.
did you go to the
Don't say that,
meeting?
don't say that publicly.
Oh.
Was it in Phillipston?
It was at the Kiva.
It was at the Kiva. So you went the wrong night?
I'm gonna delete
You go
that.
Tuesday?
Was there a
and not
meeting?
Wednesday?
I might have.
It was a budget hearing.
Oh, okay.
That's all it-
Okay,
That's all it was.
you know what?
You went on Tuesday.
I went to vote. Trying to kill two birds with one stone.
That's not how it works.
Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to eat crow on that one. But I did actually see on one of their notices, it said Kiva/Phillips.
Cause they did have a meeting in Phillipston last month. They try to rotate them.
Yeah, okay, anyway, alright, my bad.
Okay.
But I did see, yeah, that's the thing with the social media, I don't really trust that. So.
Well, the information's only as good as what's put out there, so.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the end-all be-all should be what's on the school committee page of the NRSD website, and that
Yep.
front header page. When
Yep.
I spoke with Ms. Varney, she told me that was what she updated
Okay.
frequently.
So go with what Sue said.
So.
She had- So, obviously, this year's budget, they're, trying to level budget 2.5%. Right now, what I saw for the school, it looks like, initially it's a little over, but we gotta wait to see really what's gonna happen with that. As we know, since we're just in the beginning of this, that it's a little fluid right now of what's gonna happen, and, so it'll be interesting.
Well, let me, if I can, Mr. Chairman.
You should be getting the letter, cause they voted to certify last night, and they said, Margaret, the chair said the treasurer would be sending out.
Right,
the
right.
Yeah,
letter, so-
I usually get that in the mailbox.
Yep. I'll point out a couple of things about the budget.
Okay?
If you look at the expense budget for the town, there's a column that says advisory committee recommendations on the electronic version as well as
Yep.
the paper.
Yep.
Electronic version, if you click on it, it says TBD. There is no way we can end up putting anything in there. Why do I say that?
I don't know, but I think you're gonna tell us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
When did we get the Excel?
The other day.
The other day.
Adam sent it out.
Yeah, Adam sent it out. Thank you for asking for it, Mr. Chairman. It's a protected,
The second,
it's a protected document.
So you can't add a column? Because it's protected, right?
It's already an advisory recommendation one.
Oh, but you can't write in it.
No, you can't we can't put anything in there. And I'm gonna bring out a few more things that I brought out last year. And I wanna take an end-up reference back to, a couple of things that I went and tried to end up doing, but was sent it out. And we, at that particular time, there was very little time for us to go through the budget. On the 16th of April, I sent out, the 19 budget with a column, a whole new tab, which was the expense budget with the advisory column, and we could end up actually inputting to it. How did I do that? I actually went in and created the tab and the expense budget, and also went into each one of the department budgets under each account number. And I don't know if everybody still has that document, I still have it, where I put on the recommendation for the advisory committee. I haven't got that on my computer today, but that's what I ended up doing. I could resend that out if everybody wants to see what I ended up doing. Why did I ended up doing that last year? Because when we end up going through the budget, under a particular account number, we can agree with everything or disagree. Or we can end up doing the same thing that the town administrator does. And what does he do under that? Under an account number, and let me just pick on one, because I'm kind of a little upset, especially when we talk about the fact that we want, there was talk about getting another policeman on. He ends up, on that particular one, and I'll actually go to it, and I wanna make sure that I'm quoting it per se. I don't wanna misquote something here. The actual amount. Did I go by it here? There's emergency management, there's fire. There we go, police. Under salaries, there was a request for $1,303,000. Allocated by the administrator is $1,275,000. Lump sum discount of $28,600.
Disallowed.
Disallowed, okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You see that, okay. Disallowed.
Well, that's the terminology he uses.
Yeah, that's, okay, I'll say you're right. But if you look at all of the numbers that he has going across, they're the same as what was requested. all he's doing is taking a lump sum. And the reason I point that out is, I know that last year you had, Mr. Chairman, you had some reservations about looking at budgets and saying, hey, we're not the experts. Well, we're not the experts on what's needed, but we are on, as far as finances, and we could do the same thing, whether we go line by line or a lump sum disallowance. We could say, I think that's too high. We could end up saying, okay, maybe 28,000 is too much. We think it should be 18. That gives us another $10,000 to use somewhere else, and that's a start. That's one start for getting a policeman back, or paying for the firemen, which they had last year, reducing their time from 48 hours to 40 hours, and we lost the EMT because of that. Those are the type of things, to me, those are the things that we need to take and end up looking at and going through and saying, okay, we either agree with what the administrator is putting out here, or make some recommendations on our own.
Well-
And putting a column on there with our recommendation, whether it's line by line or under an account number, or a whole cut number, is we can end up doing it that way, because.
So until we talk to each department head, I'm not comfortable just not arbitrarily, but putting another column in there and saying, oh, I think it should be this. Because they're the experts, to me, they're the experts in their department.
Well, one of the things why I brought up reviewing this now is to come up with questions, and once we have the review on that Saturday, that doesn't preclude us from asking them to come in and further clarification. I mean, I've got some questions here on items that I saw on the different departments, and I went, I don't know what that is. I'll be really honest. And I said, I don't know what that particular item is. It's listed per se, and I'm going, I never heard of that. I need to take and end up understanding what that is.
Sure, so that would be your question for, Department X.
Yeah.
You have this listed. I really don't know what that is. Could you please explain it to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the TA was here, he said that you can forward him questions now.
Well, that's why
You can ask things now.
that's
and
why I
let's-
said,
yeah,
if we
send it out.
start before the 14th, we can end up, trailings advert. I have no idea. That's $500. If it's advertising, there's advertising above it.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't.
And I went.
No, I think that's a good point, that when you see, to me, there's enough room on the spreadsheet of the description to put a description in there that would make sense to anybody just looking at it.
Yeah.
For the most
I
part.
mean, I'm looking at this as, if I don't understand it, it's an education for me as well as the rest of us to understand what they're asking for. And I don't think that's like Bob has said, just because we ask questions, it's not a bad thing, and we're not throwing hand
Absolutely
grenades.
not.
We're just trying to get educated so that we can make a good, sound judgment as to what that is, and if we think it's financially advisable to do that. I mean, if they come back and it's saying, we're gonna put advertisements on the trails, jogging trails or something like that, I'd say, no, we got better priorities than that. I mean, that's just.
Just, along this line, I see both sides and I don't necessarily see a problem. So much, not for me anyway. 'Cause I've been through the process a couple times. I like how it works. For the most part, it has some, areas that could be better, but when we sit down with the department heads and go through, you can ask any question that comes up in your head, and they'll generally answer them right there. And if they can't answer them, they get back to you, just like,
Yeah.
Will
Well, I mean-
stated in the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I got concerns about when I see, one department getting stipends and another one that the administrator said no stipend.
Can I ask you a
And
question,
the reason
Daniel?
I'm so concerned is, I remember 13, the stipends for selectmen were almost $26,000.
Will, nothing stops you from just asking that question. Do you know what I mean? Just typing in to Carter, Adam, whoever.
Well, I don't
that
consider
question
myself
is.
as an independent person looking at that. I consider myself as a member of this committee that they can end up
Well,
asking.
you're both.
Okay, no, you're both though, and here's how I would say that. You may ask questions that, to me, I look at it and say, no, I'm okay with that, I get that, and I'm not saying whatever.
Well, that's why I bring it up here.
Right,
Because
so,
if
so
you
I
have a
would
different.
rather, right, so I would rather we all get to the meeting and ask our individual questions instead of them, because I may ask a question that everybody else disagrees with, so I don't want it presented as an advisory committee question, because, you know, if you went through the process of, okay, I wanna know X, Y, and Z, and you all say, no, we don't need to know that, and then you take a vote, then I don't get my question answered, I mean, if you did it properly. So, I think it's important that we have a united front as an advisory committee, however, as individuals, we all look at this differently. So it's not to preclude you from asking any question you want. You can ask 10,000 questions if you want. They might ask you.
And that's why I do
They
it
might
through-
ask you to pay for the
That's why I
pizza,
do it
but-
through this committee, so that people understand what I'm asking.
Well, to
And
me-
then, I mean, maybe I get some feedback back from one of the members saying, and clarify it before I even go ask it. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's my
No,
thoughts on it.
and I don't disagree with that approach, but until we actually talk to the department heads, I feel like you just speculate on what it means. You want
I'm not
that-
speculating anything, I'm asking questions.
No, what I mean is, if we did it now and beforehand, you know, what is this for? We don't know the answer. That's why we have the department heads come in. And I think since you weren't here last year, for that meeting, I think you'll find that it actually went pretty well. We were actually pretty pleased with the way it
Well,
went.
I wasn't happy with that, the way that process was, because I have been on this committee for a while, and we actually, as a committee, went and talked to department heads to get clarification, other than
Don't
going.
do that anymore. You know, I mean, we got department heads, you can't have every committee calling in department heads.
Only
I
if we
don't-
have questions, Bob.
Why do they have to be called here? Why can't you just ask them? I'm just wondering, I mean, I understand, we used to do things a lot different, stuff changes, and I'm all for change, and I'm all for refining things.
Okay.
I just think that, you know, we're having some growing pains, is what it sounds like here, because, you know, trying to do the way we used to do it with the way they're trying to do things now, and there's a meld issue. I personally have no problem with this as it's presented. But I like numbers, so that's just, you know, my thing. I don't say it's not, if Will wants something, just, you know, go right to the horse's mouth. 'Cause I was gonna say, that's what I do all the time. Whether it's right or whether it's wrong, if I got a question, I want an answer, I ask the person.
Well, if you haven't noticed, if I ask questions of our administrator, I get shit from him.
I haven't seen
I
one
get
question you
rash
asked.
of shit from him.
I'm not trying to argue with you, Will, but I haven't seen one email from you to Carter asking a question, so I don't know that.
You've seen it in a meeting where he ends up.
Personally, absolutely, I've seen it, yes.
That's why I don't go to him, that's why I go versus through this. And the chairman has.
So I understand, so again, we're not saying, Will, don't ask questions,
Yeah.
by no means are we saying that.
No, I understand that.
And I'll tell you, one of the things for me that helps is, and I'm not picking on Amy, but Amy might ask a question of a particular department head, and it'll clue me into a question, a follow-up question. And that follow-up question you really don't have until they give an answer. It's like, oh, okay, what did you mean by that? So I would suggest that you kind of see how the process goes, and of course be a very active participant in it. And I think the new paradigm is, I think we were all fairly happy with it.
Well, and I think if you have questions now that you can enumerate clearly
Yeah.
to try and help you get clarity before we have that big meeting, 'cause I feel like that's important to you. then if you don't wanna send them directly,
Send them
you
to-
can use
send them to
me, use any one of us.
Send them to me, and
Yeah,
I will
and
send them
we'll
as
send it
an
up and
You're
we'll
a
get
member of
you,
the meeting.
because the town administrator was very clear, I thought, about saying, if you have questions like that, like what is that
Yeah.
line item? He can answer it in a very quick moment, and then you have that answered and you can move on, and you're not stuck thinking about it for 2 weeks before a meeting comes up, or, you know, waiting till next Thursday or whatever.
Any questions you have, send to me, and I will send to the administrator as chairman of the advisory committee.
That's
I'm
fine.
happy to do that.
Yep.
Okay?
The other thing is, going back to the expense budget, how are we gonna end up addressing that when we can't put anything in? And we can't do anything to the individual budgets if we wanna make changes.
I'll send Adam an email and ask him.
That's why
Did we
I,
get that, the Excel document that we could sort of play with?
I thought so.
Huh?
But
It's
it's
locked.
locked.
Oh, it's locked,
so-
right.
And usually, unless, I don't know,
Need to
can you,
ask a
can
couple
you
times,
save it
actually.
as your own personal copy? And that, does that unlock it? Cause
No.
sometimes it does,
no, it
sometimes
doesn't,
it doesn't.
it doesn't.
Sometimes it will, sometimes it.
That's
and-
why
and you
last
take the
year-
permission.
Yeah.
That's why last year, I made a whole new expense
Right, I
budget
remember
tab
now.
that said with our recommendations. And what I
Right.
did is, I went to each of those other accounts on all of them, so that when we
Okay.
made it, we could actually see
Sure.
what accounts we made changes to, if any,
Right.
and I'm not saying we would have, if any, and then it would roll up.
Okay.
And you would see our recommendations at the very top level and all the account numbers below.
I
And I'm,
will,
I mean,
I will send Adam an email and ask him for a copy that is unlocked. Granted, that won't be their official copy.
But it'll
be
give us
our
something to work
copy.
from
I'll
with the
ask him to
formulas.
name it advisory committee.
do you wanna have
whatever.
columns for the different, accounts under each budget? Or do you wanna just do it on the expense budget one?
You tell me how you wanna do it.
I would say that you'd wanna do it on each account, we can either agree.
So here's the thing.
So it will
I'll just
roll up,
ask
so-
him- I'll ask him, that's fine. I'll ask him to send me an unlocked version, and then we can add the column ourselves.
Yeah, because last year I had put that on as an example. If you go to the salaries
Yeah.
for the selectmen, I actually put on, next to the administrator, advisory recommendations. And whatever we would put in that column,
Okay.
no matter what it is,
Right,
whether
would
we agreed
change.
or not,
Yep.
it would actually roll over
So,
to the expense
If I
line.
can get an unlocked version, can you take the task to put that column in each tab? Cause I certainly don't have time.
I can do that,
Okay,
I can.
alright. I don't know if Adam takes a laptop home with him. He may not be able to get it till Monday, but
I don't know.
I will, I will
I mean,
contact
that's,
Adam.
to me, whether we make changes or we agree, at least you'll see a column that we've actually looked at each budget and
I see.
later on, after the thing, and make our recommendations later on. We're not making our recommendations, right now we're asking questions.
Right.
And make those recommendations later on, before annual town meeting, and say, okay, I see the town administrator, is a consultant floating. I don't think the 9,500 is sufficient, or it's too much, maybe 9,000. And we put that in, and it actually rolls up, and it rolls up to the actual, the total. This way here, if we go to that expense one, and we put, even if he unlocks it, and we're able to put in a number, my question is, okay, we can put in a number for selectmen or anybody, any budgets, even our own. And we put in a number, say, I'll pick on advisory, and it's, we have a budget now of 49,500 as an example. And we say, okay, we really should have a budget of 49,250. Okay, which account did I take the 250 from? I mean, you can't tell that. But if you have it so that because under that expense, if you see that there's a plus sign, if you open that up, and I opened it up last year, and you can't, by the way, you can't open it up. If you go to the left-hand side and you hit it, it says it's locked. You can't see any of those accounts. And
Right.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's my thoughts. This way, it makes it easier for us to go through and say, okay, we agree, we disagree, we put some numbers in, it rolls up, and we don't have to take it into scratching on a piece of paper and then trying to take and figure out on what the actual number is. I mean, we actually voted last meeting to make changes to our budget. We moved some money around, and I don't see that on this particular, on this particular budget for under advisory. We changed some money around. We may wanna do that just for ours.
Did we tell them?
Yeah,
We
Lee,
officially
I
tell
thought,
them that we changed
I think we
that?
did.
I thought they did.
I don't know.
I don't know if Lee sent it. If he didn't, then,
I don't remember, I'm sure, well, I wouldn't know, actually,
well,
would've
we'll
just
fix
sent-
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing that we can end up doing, and it would be a simple change. We could end up changing ours or anybody's, and it would roll up easy. It would make our job easier to take and make a recommendation and have it roll over to the expense thing. And say, okay, here's the expense sheet, and what our recommendations, Mr. Administrator and Mr. Selectman, here it is.
Okay, I will work on, getting a copy.
Is that,
It's
am I
not
on the
unre-
line here,
No,
or, I
I
mean,
don't
I
think so.
think I'm trying to make it easier for us. Cause I can send you everybody a copy of what I sent out last year, so that
I
you can.
have it,
You have it?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure I have it.
It's just that they can end up showing you what
Would
it
you like a
does.
copy of that, Mr. May?
No, thanks.
Have a drink. Geez, how many worksheets are on here? Oh. Okay. I don't like this, doesn't get bigger.
I'm just hoping the state does not end up advising us not to have meetings like on the 14th because of this corona. I mean,
don't know
when
why
I
they
first came
would.
in, I was serious, over 65, they're advising people over 65.
Yeah, I'm
to
sure. I
stay
think
out
that
of-
there's certainly.
And if you haven't noticed, I am over 65.
I would have
I
never
don't
guessed
think,
that.
we're not at that
I-
point in
I
the
didn't-
state yet.
No, I'm not.
No, the
presumptuous.
wave's coming though. yeah.
But I mean, it's like, I
Like
think
one of
they're
these?
doing a lot of things over, as an abundance of caution, which, again, you know, you got people advising them.
Yeah, and like on the stipends thing, I'm very sensitive to that because in 2013 budget, when we had, in 12, when we did it, there was a lot of stipends that were cut, and if you look at going back, it was between 75,000 and 100,000 that was cut because of stipends. And I don't wanna get on that trail because if we start doing that, it takes money away from other things that this town really needs. And I think we have, some of the people that are volunteering are doing a good job, and they're doing it not because of the money.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I think a stipend is a case-by-case basis.
Cause, the stipends for the chairman of the advisory and also the clerk was cut that year.
I don't do I wouldn't I wouldn't take anything.
Oh, I understand it, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
that's what we went through. I mean, I have it right here, it was cut.
Just more taxes I'll have to pay. All right, any more questions on the budget as we go forward? Obviously, the 14th will be a big day. All right, any old business or open issues?
I just wanted to, if you would, I just wanted to mention that, we had talked a few weeks ago, and I know there's a lot going on, so I just, wanted to re-up it so that we kinda all think about it. We talked about reviewing the municipal agreements that we have on a ongoing basis, scheduling them out one, meeting after
Right,
meeting.
right.
And we're here at another meeting and we didn't do that. And it was I did not, when you sent out the thing, I didn't send
Yeah, you're
you.
supposed to send me the reminder.
Yeah, I guess. So, I'm reminding you now.
I actually thought
reminding
for this meeting that we were gonna have a very long conversation on the budget and the BVA, so, just.
I kinda
remind me.
figured, I just don't wanna get them
Just
lost in the
remind me.
mud, because I just went through that, animal control contract again, and
Okay.
we need
Is that the
real
one you
help
wanna do
with
next?
contracts.
Okay.
Again, we can only make recommendations. I mean, we made a recommendation for the IMA, and
You know what?
Has it been on
But
the
that's
agenda?
That's what we could do. We can make the recommendations.
can I ask do you think it's going to be on the agenda?
Not anytime soon.
My personal opinion?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I mean, I know I'm only speaking with one selectman, and you don't control the agenda. You can only input just like the rest of us.
I will send the chairman of the Board of Selectmen an email asking him when he expects it to be on the,
Yeah, that would be as a follow-up, yes.
Yep.
I think we should follow that up vigorously.
I concur. I like the term vigorously.
You like it vigorously?
Too.
I could use a lot stronger
Alright.
ones, but
No, that's good.
any other old business? New business? I did get the, latest Gardner News bill, but I haven't followed up on the, why we owe money. So I did send Kelly an email asking her if we had any, our last ones we paid were, because I know earlier this year, or, I gotta think, the first one, I think we've only had, this is the third bill since I've been chairman. The first one was for annual town meeting, then we had the special town meeting, and that was, the one that they were supposed to give us for free. Maybe there was another one in there, I'll have to look back. But Gardner News says we basically owe for 2 advertisements, and I think they're incorrect. I think I've submitted at least 2 bills to Kelly. And so if it is 3 that we've done, one of them was free. So she hasn't
Whoop, whoop.
responded, so
I mean, free is good.
free is always good.
one other comment is under old, I guess,
Or new, old, whatever.
is getting the budget electronically, to me, in this day and age, is the only way we should do that.
Agreed.
For me to take and end up carrying around, and I at least one other member I know that doesn't wanna carry around this book, whether we go to a meeting or whatever, is a total waste of money. I'm sorry, if you wanna have one book and put it in the selectman's office as a paper copy,
Yeah.
just in case the system goes
Or a
down,
couple,
fine, but you should have a backup anyway, electronically.
Yeah.
We should be getting this electronically.
I will,
It's a lot easier for, I think you voiced that, and I voiced that many times, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier for me to go through that
Yep.
than to scurry through a book that, and yes, it's on the website, that's basically for people to look at themselves, but then they make changes to the damn thing, and they don't change it on the website.
Right.
I'm critical of that. If you wanna be transparent and you make changes to a budget, I don't care what it is. Reflect it on there and change it on there.
I think in this day and age, there's no reason we can't have a dynamic document that can
Yeah.
be changed on the fly and reflected and communicated to the board of selectmen,
Yeah.
to this committee, to
Yeah.
all the other relative and
I
pertinent
agree.
people. And maybe there could be lag on the website, that does happen, but, having it updated once a week or once every 10 days doesn't seem outrageous with a document like this that changes, sometimes
Yeah.
I mean, we've already had 2 corrections come through
Yep.
in paper. I mean, I don't like carrying, I felt obligated to take it because it's been printed and I feel like I should bring
And
it.
it has our
and-
names on it too.
I know, I feel like I should,
On
bring
the
it with me,
spine.
but I'd love to see it be a dynamic,
Adam was very proud of
online,
that,
cloud stored type of thing, and
Yeah.
maybe that's coming, maybe the IT funds that keep getting allocated, maybe that's something they're looking forward to, cause I know it has to be like encrypted and
Yes.
made so it's unhackable, like I get it, but.
Can I ask,
Still
Mr. Chairman, if I
need
can
updated.
ask our member from capital planning a question?
Uh,
And I'm not trying to put you on the
Pretty
spot.
sure all the answers are gone?
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Sure.
I looked under capital planning.
Yes.
2016 and 15, don't cut it for information, for transparency, as well as the entire plan.
2015 and 16?
Yeah.
The years?
Yep, it's on the website.
Okay, well, yeah, I know. And,
Well, all I'm
you
saying
know,
is, as a
that
member,
might be the next capital planning, you know, their objective, because we've tried that. Somebody who was the chair and member of the Board of Selectmen was in charge of that, and that left when he did, as far as I know. And I believe right now, Adam is trying to get the issues back together, because honestly, anything we put up right now is partial.
do
at
you have
best.
let me ask a pointed question.
Sure.
Because you're there, you can, is there an Excel sheet with everything on it?
Nowhere in this planet.
Okay, it was previously,
Well, it wasn't, it was closer.
okay.
That's the thing, where, you know, there's something
Right,
that
you're right,
has,
there was
is a
stuff-
reasonable facsimile
Yes,
of
yes.
that,
I
but
have-
not actual.
Right, I have to agree with you because not everything was on there. It was a good list for everything that was there, so you could see it all, but we didn't have, there was departments and the school committee never inputted to make capital,
Right.
put it all on there.
That list still does exist, just so you know.
It is,
Right.
the master list is on there
Yeah,
also, but it's
I'm
also,
saying an updated master list
yeah.
is still in existence. It's just not on the web, I believe, because it's not up to date and it's
Yeah.
not complete, so it was, you
well,
know.
the reason I
but
asked
Adam-
that, Bob, is,
Adam has been working on that.
the reason I asked that is, I looked at the budget, and I saw, capital, and then I went to the capital thing to take and end up seeing if it coincided, and I went,
It
we're
has-
missing something.
Okay, so what I just
hasn't
took
since
from
I
this
originally signed
conversation
on.
is, the data on the Capitol website, the website is old.
Yeah,
Ancient.
Okay.
Outdated and useless.
yes. I mean, we can't afford,
Done that in 2 seconds.
we can't afford to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I mean,
I do
government-wise,
have one thing
All right, of
when they're
course.
done.
government-wise, we shouldn't be doing that. We
I
should,
don't have this as a
we should be
member
trying to
comments.
taking upkeep all of these committees and everything, so that when the public looks at, I mean, that's why we take criticism as town government, even federal government. If you can't go somewhere to find the information that's supposed to be there, and it's wrong, it's no good to anybody, and they're going to end up criticizing you, and they're not going to end up going along with what you want. That's whether it's an override or whatever. If you put the stuff out there and people can see it, and they add up the stuff, and they went, yeah, they're right. We're failing here because we need an override or whatever. I mean, there's communities that every 3 years, they have an override, but they actually put the information out there to actually, and they actually say it out front, that every 3 years, because of things going along as they are, we need a small override rather than one big one every 5 or 10 years. I mean, and it's just a fact of life in government. You may end up needing an override time to time if you don't have the revenue coming in. And there's some communities that the revenue doesn't come in, especially towards the Boston area. The one I'm talking about is Arlington, and the gentleman that I spoke with, he's been, like I said, over 25 years as the chairman of the finance committee, and he basically says that every 3 to 5 years, they have to do an override.
No doubt.
So I went to the joint committee meeting on Tuesday that was held at the district office. And just wanted to give a really quick report. It piggybacks a little bit off of the discussion about the school committee having their budget hearing. So we sort of talked about that preliminarily. Dr. Cassavant was still creating the PowerPoint, so we got a really rustic draft of a spreadsheet with the numbers that I believe he presented on Wednesday. So no surprise to this group because it's all out now. But sort of talking about, there was a presentation given at the Phillipston Board of Selectmen, that the community of Phillipston wanted to investigate what it would mean or take to keep the Phillipston Memorial School open. We talked about that as a group. We sort of collectively listened to what the superintendent had to say about that, what the school committee chair had to say about that. There is some pressure perceived by Templeton, real and imagined, because we are 85% of the school district. Strictly speaking, population-wise, the pressure's on us as Templeton and what we can give to the district, because Phillipston doesn't have the same, they're not giving 85% of the school cost. So just a continuing discussion for that. I think the school committee is sensitive to it. There was also, I don't know, this is all public. It was in the Athol News. It's all been released and everything, but there was a citizen that spoke and made a claim that he had heard from a state organization that part of the agreement for building Templeton Center was that the Phillipston Memorial School must remain open. So Dr. Cassavant and Chairwoman Hughes are taking that very seriously and investigating with that government organization as to the veracity of that comment. Because indeed, if there is a need for the Phillipston School to remain open as an obligation of what all has happened with Templeton building a new school here, then district requirements aside, which indeed these are district requirements, this is nothing Templeton can control on their own, but the district would need to know it now as they're getting ready to
Yeah, I think I
to
heard
push
that
their
same thing
budget.
that gentleman said.
It was in the paper, it was in the
that makes
Athol
no
News.
sense.
Right,
It was
That makes no
everywhere.
sense.
So if the school committee is going to be on YouTube, it'll be the meeting from yesterday, 3/4. And if anybody has questions that's listening to this, you can contact the school committee, go to the NRSD website, contact Dr. Cassavant or Chairwoman Hughes if you have real questions. It's just a brief meeting summary.
Yeah, because I think the selectmen in Phillipston also talked about the fact that the school district in Orange, the way it's broken up, there was some discussion at one of their meetings about that, about elementary school being separate.
Right, so that's all about Phillipston, and that's what
Let that-
Phillipston wants to
let the
do.
lawyers do
But
that.
as far as, I did ask about the status of the regional agreement, because there was a joint meeting there was a joint meeting where it was told to everyone that the district agreement from 2004 had never been submitted to the state. So Chairwoman Hughes did say that the state has come back and said, well, it was, it's in both town meeting minutes, it's
Yep.
signed by everything, it was all signed and sealed, it just not delivered. So that is the agreement that stands currently, and that the school committee has spoken and said that they are going to start to initiate looking at the district agreement for several reasons. It's not anything that this committee initiated, it's the district's desire to examine something that's that old to try and revamp it and just bring it up to speed, even with language, and then building names aren't current in the document. So little things like the name of the building being valid.
Because they
So
said they
they will
couldn't
have to look
amend-
at it.
They couldn't amend it, they had write a new one.
Right, so
But
that is,
the big
because it's
question-
that old, it will have to be completely redone. And again, that's a district problem, not a Templeton problem, that's a
Did they
district
say
problem.
whether they went to, the school, MSBA or DESI, whoever controls that thing, that they can see if they ever got a copy of what the towns voted? Did they ever do that?
No one ever got a copy, but because the towns have it on record, the paperwork is signed, everything's stamped by both towns, because of the lag of time in between, I mean, it's 2020 right now, this is from 2004, so they're
I think they're
considering
basically
it.
saying it's a moot point,
They
that,
did
Right.
send the school district to complete the process because it was required
Yep.
to get sent to DESI. They did send, I talked to Dr. Casban after that meeting, and the district sent them just to check that box.
Yeah,
But, I know I went and looked up the minutes and the town meeting when that happened.
Yep, yep.
And I found the minutes, it was, I couldn't find Phillipston, but it's like,
okay.
I think someone found Phillipston meetings. So the only thing that never happened was the school district never forwarded it to the Department of Education. And they
Okay.
finally did that just to say that has been done. So
Right.
that, 2004 one, supposedly,
Yep.
DESI has, and
Hope so.
All right.
well, it's
Thanks,
just
Jeff.
better than being in a position where their most recent agreement would have been the one from the late 70s, where we went from the original agreement, which was a 7 to 12, to, in the late, what was it, 78 or 79, they went to a K to 12 or a pre-K to 12 district.
Yeah.
So at least we know where we're at, and we're on the same page as the state, in that respect, so that's
The
a
one thing
step
I
in the
don't,
right
I
direction.
still don't understand about the whole thing, maybe it's going over my head, is if we are truly a district, a school district, how come Phillipston never contributed to the school here? I mean, that's, if we're really a school
Wow.
district.
Because
I can't
I
answer
think,
that, Mr. Spring.
I'm just missing something there.
I thought that because the elementary schools, that the middle and high schools are part of the district, that the elementary schools are town.
Like, who owns the
But
building?
makes no sense that if it's town,
How you
then
move
why
students.
is there a split in who pays the operating costs?
Well, I think there's been
Yeah.
some discussion about the school leasing the building from the town, and the name of the building being part of the original reason that the district agreement was addressed, because they needed to change it from Templeton Center to Templeton Elementary, because the building that now stands is Templeton Elementary School, not Templeton Center School.
Right.
I remember, you'd have to ask the school district for that, for sure, but something like that.
Just one thing I wanted to mention was said here with relation to the agreement and why we built the school and why all that is. I've asked the same question, and I just believe that it was because the school district just said they didn't want anything to do with it, because they have the power and ability to buy land, to build buildings, to take on debt, to do all those things according to the district agreement. They just negated doing that, in my belief, and left it to Templeton. So that is the way I read it, just
So-
between me, you, and the fence post.
One other comment did you have a comment, Dave?
Well, so going back to kind of what you said, if Templeton built the school, so we had the agreement with the MSBA,
Yes.
so
School did actually, right?
I just,
Yeah, the district
so
has
I
the
don't know,
agreement.
I
Yeah, the
guess.
district has the
The
agreement, we
district,
have the funding, and nobody has the title.
the
right?
first,
I'm really
contract with
confused.
the owner's project manager says between SBS and, I have the copy. I couldn't go put my fingers on it right this second, but I have it. Between the town of Templeton and Strategic Building Systems. And the gentleman's name who was coming was John Winokur, and that company has since merged with whatever it is now.
Oh,
He's
God.
still with the company.
Yeah.
The second one was for the architectural firm, SMMA, and that has, and this is what I fought like hell to keep. The second one for the architect had the town of Templeton and Narragansett School District. And the ones after that have Narragansett School District. Part of the reason I believe that the school was financed by Templeton was, there was a town meeting, if I have a couple minutes, real quick. There's town meeting votes on record that Phillipston voted not to, they didn't wanna support the school, they weren't gonna pass the debt or nothing. And I wasn't here privy to all the detail, this is my assumption, that the district wanting a new elementary school shifted the attention to Templeton and tried to get Templeton to build it. And that's how that came about. And the Board of Selectmen, which I was a member of in the process, I was vehemently
Against it,
it
yeah.
being in the district's name. We got told everything, well, MSBL only deals with districts, they only deal with this, the blah, blah, blah. I said, well, why was the first contract on the town of Templeton? That's why, if you remember, there was a $500,000 second vote. The first one was $550,000 for feasibility. Then they stretched it out, spent money looking for land and this and that. Anyway, they went for another $500,000. The school superintendent at the time came to the Board of Selectmen and said, because it was questioned, well, this is in the district's name. Well, that's the way MSB says it has to be. Okay, they voted at town meeting, said, yes, that's in the district's name. Phillipston was gonna have to pay part of that debt because it was district debt, not Templeton debt. That's why town of Templeton, somebody went, oh, hell no! And that's why, just a couple of years ago, we re-voted to the town of Templeton borrow the $500,000. So, but the building belongs to the town, and
Yeah.
within the regional agreement, you lease it for no money to the school district, and they are responsible for the upkeep, insurance and all of that, except when it comes to repairs.
Yeah.
Anything breaks and it's $5,000 below,
Right.
the district pays for it. If it's $5,001, the town gets the bill, the whole bill.
Okay.
That's one of the
I did have
benefits of upgrading the agreement every 5 years like it's supposed to be, rather
Right.
than every 14 years, that $5,000 number would be
Higher.
much more significant now.
Yeah.
Some
16,
agreements
Bob,
have, 10
Bob,
grand now and
16.
stuff like that.
2004, 20, 16,
16 years.
16.
Yeah, sure, okay.
too long.
Did I say something?
So, I did wanna make, one comment. I've seen a lot of things on, as everybody's gotten their excise tax bills, like I did, and was surprised to see that it went on an older vehicle, that it had gone up. So I came in, the other day to pay them and asked Cheryl why they went up. And I guess in previous years, they'd round to the dollar or $5, and now they're actually down to the penny.
Yeah.
They've sort of changed, they've got new software, they're changing the way they do it, and that's why, you know, you didn't see like $125 or $75, it's $86.49 or whatever, that they have a new system that is to the penny, and so that's why some of them are going up. That's why people are saying that, and I just wanted
Yeah,
to,
the registry, that's their excuse, that they switched.
so,
different-
all right,
It's to bring in more, it's to bring in more money.
Of course it is. Somebody figured out that hey,
Yeah.
by rounding, we're losing money.
Yeah, but if every person is rounding by $5, and it's not going, if it's going in favor of the citizen and not in favor of the town,
Yeah.
and it's $5 per person that lives here, that's a lot of money.
They wouldn't have done it if it was going in favor of the citizen. They
Oh, right, of
decided
course,
it
of
was
course.
70-80% in favor of the state, and that's why
Right.
they said, hey, let's
So-
shift this over.
All right, so next meeting is the 19th of
We'll
March.
have the Saturday meeting before then,
Well,
but yeah.
our next scheduled meeting is the 19th, but we'll have the meeting on the 14th. Anybody out there that knows somebody that would like to join our lively group of hooligans here, please, we're certainly willing to take
No,
anyone on.
no,
And he's
you're
on the board of
staying where you are.
So,
I'm sorry.
and with that, I will take a motion to
Sorry.
adjourn.
Motion to
moved.
adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, yeah.